Okay, so welcome to Patch Notes with Revo. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching the video. Appreciate it and everything. Um, just FYI, I'm not feeling my best, so that's why I'm talking like this. But looks like we are actually getting Terrorblade. And since I haven't played Dota 1, I don't really know much of anything about Terrorblade. But looks like we are actually getting Terrorblade. Whoa, sorry. The echo from the monitor here. But it says Terrorblade is a demon marauder, an outlaw hellion whom even other demons fear. He stole from the demon lords, and for his crimes was taught this lesson: even hell has a hell. Hell has a... That's pretty meta. He was incarcerated in Falfell, a dark mirror of reality where demons are sentenced to gaze into twisted reflections of their own souls. But instead of suffering, Terrorblade mastered each of his reflected worst self and turned his terror loose upon creation. If I'm right, I'm just gonna look this up. Falfell Shard from the Dota 2 wiki. Yeah. It counted up the... I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but that one counted up the number of demons imprisoned. That clearly had something to do with it. So the people on Reddit that surmised about that were right. You got 4 skills, it looks like. Reflection, create a double of your foe, which then attacks its original as it slows their movement, which is terrifying against carries, as I've heard. Summon forth an illusion of yourself to help aid you in battle, which I think can like double Dagon or something. Not 100% sure about that. Embrace the darkness within, trading your melee attack for a ranged strike while granting additional damage. Which looks like kind of the opposite of Troll, maybe? Sever the soul of an ally or enemy, exchanging your health for theirs. Ooh. And we've got an Arcana. Okay, it looks like that's the Arcana, which is kind of sick looking. Several new animations, altered voice, custom death effect for victims. Coming February 6th. So I'm going to go ahead and say the patch is probably coming February 6th as well. Oh my goodness. Is this what I think it is? I don't remember what the mode was called as people have referenced it, but it looks like they're now going to do a random ability draft, which will probably be in unranked. Behold the majesty of a pouncing pudge. And each hero's abilities are placed into a pool. So it looks like you're going to be able to... You'll get a random hero, and of those heroes, the abilities are going to be placed in a pool. And we have the balance update. This is going to be the big thing. Okay, so we have a cure for counter pick and all pick, which is going to be really good. You now lose 1 gold per second if you haven't picked a hero after the selection timer runs out in all pick. And to counterman that, you've now got 75 seconds to pick. And the pre-creep time has been reduced by 15 seconds. So there's still the same time from the start of picking to the start of the game. But it's split evenly now. Roshan, has been nerfed or buffed. I don't know which way to look at it, but it looks like he no longer stops upgrading his HP damage armor at 45 minutes, which is good. But the upgrade rate is also increased by 20%. That's going to make Roshan ridiculous, but going to actually buff level 1 Rosh strats, it looks like. And the bounty for killing him is more consistent. This is not the 200 gold bounty. This is the bounty the person who last hits him gets. So you're not going to get up to 600 gold anymore, but you're at least going to get 150, which is reasonable. Because if you just got 105 gold or so, it was kind of stupid feeling. And we've got some big hero nerfs. No changes to Abaddon? Huh. Oddly enough. Alchemist's night vision has been reduced, and that is huge. This is really a nerf to Unstable Concoction most of all, seeing as you're not going to be able to get Unstable Concoction off as easily during night. Sorry about that, guys. Because you're not going to have vision of the hero as easily. That's a huge nerf, definitely. Alchemist is still going to be pretty top tier, I think, simply for the fact that having Grievel's Greed in the mid game as a support is really good, and Acid Spray is still really good, as is his ult. But they're also changing Unstable Concoction. The maximum duration is reduced from 7 to 5, which that was a necessary change, I think. It no longer continues to get stronger while it's in the air. And I'm still unsure about the way it works in Dota 1, but I'm pretty sure it could explode while it was in the air. And we'll have to see if that is the way it's still going to work. But the shaken duration means the initiation is going to be a little harder for Alchemist. It's not going to charge up any faster, it says, so that's nice at least. Ancient Apparition, we have spell damage amp increased by 5% per level. That's pretty big. And the duration increased. You gotta remember too, the slow on that is pretty ridiculous. The aura stickiness increased from 0.1 to the standard 0.5 aura value. Ooh. So that's gonna be a bit more lasting slow from Ice Vortex, whereas previously if you walked out of it, it was basically gone. Anti-Mage Mana Void radius increased from 300 to 450. That's not that big, but added an AoE targeting cursor for Mana Void. That's a reasonable buff to Anti-Mage. Not enough to see him rise back to the top of the meta, but simply because it's still so aggressive, but we'll see if anything else changes. Base HP regen increased from 2 to 3 on Axe. That's going to definitely help his viability in the jungle. I don't think we're going to see him in competitive scene as much now. It looks like the duration on Berserker's Call was increased a little bit each level, with the first level being quite a bit, but then the rest of the levels lacking a little. It was 0.5 seconds at the first, 0.4 at the second, 0.4 more, or 0.4 more at the second, 0.3 more at the third, and 0.2 more at the fourth. So basically it's only increasing by 0.4 instead of a half a second. And the cooldown has been rescaled. So it's just a rebalance of Berserker's Call. Not Axe's primary skill though, I'd say. Batrider attacked animation time improved, so it's going to make it easier to last hit with Batrider, who was already, animation-wise, a little rough to last hit with. And definitely the change to his base damage made it hurt him a lot last patch. I still think the Blink Dagger, the Blink Lasso being nerfed was necessary. But, this could bring Batrider back a little bit. It's not going to make him first pick, first ban anymore, but we'll still see him as a pocket pick from time to time, I think. Call the Wild duration reduced. Wait, what? Call of the Wild no longer destroys previous summons on cast. Let me, real quick edit this. Here, I'm just going to remove the screen region and add a new one so I can get the entire window here. Alright, there we go. Sorry about that. I'm just going to do a little bit of theory crafting here on the Dota 2 wiki. Beastmaster, we have 40-second cooldown on each of those. And now it's a 60-second duration for each summon. So there's going to be a 20-second period where you could have 2 boars or 2 hawks, or both, in the air. I like that change. That way you can set up another hawk for vision, and you don't instantly lose the other one. So you could use it for a lot more map control. And the boar, I think, is just for the similarity, but it's going to be a nice buff because having 2 of that slow is going to be ridiculous. I'll be interested to see whether the slow will stack. First, thirst bonus speed and damage rescaled. So at the first level, he's a lot slower and does less damage. But at the top level, that's going to be a lot of move speed. Bloodbath now gives the full hero kill benefit instead of only half if he is within the 325 AoE. So we could see Bloodseeker picked as a support now. He's not going to lose the regen if he gets an assist. And he's definitely going to need to level Thirst pretty early for the vision. But I like the change, I guess. It'll be interesting to see how it affects him in pubs. Brewmaster, Primal Spit cooldown reduced. That was necessary, I think. With the change to the Ags last patch, excuse me. You didn't have the cooldown reduction you could get with Ags on Primal Split, and I think a lot of people weren't happy with the change. This could bring Brewmaster back a little bit, especially with the Aghanim's upgrade being a factor. But I still think until we see a change in the way Primal Split works with assists, I think we're not going to see him as much, because he doesn't get enough as a core. You'd have to run him as a support or something, and having a melee support with no hard stun like that is really just awkward, I feel. Especially when he gets crits from one of his passives, so it's a little rough, seeing as he does need the kills. Bristleback, though, hardly being touched. Base damage reduced by 4, and unless I'm wrong, Beastmaster equipment, heroes, here we go. Bristleback. It's not, he doesn't have that much base damage. 52 to 62, so it's going to go down to 48, 58, which is still a bit of base damage. I mean, he had pretty high base damage, I'd guess. Thank goodness, though, on the Broodmother nerf. Can no longer leave the map boundaries. This also affects all other heroes of free pathing, such as Spectre, Batrider, etc. So we're not going to see any more of this, you can't get me, I'm out of the map tactics. Spinweb no longer provides 200 vision, and free pathing is now removed when enemies have vision on you. So if you're revealed by dust and the enemy has vision over you, you'll not be able to run into the trees. However, if they can't see you, even if you've been dusted, but they can't see you because you're out of their line of sight, you can get inside the trees or get out of the trees, which is good. A huge buff to Centaur in the early game, though, with the Stampede cooldown. Taken down to 90. So, level 1 Stampede is now, cooldown-wise, level 2 Stampede. Although it's the same max. Hits required to kill powers, cogs rescaled. That's a good change for Clockwork. It'll help his early game, but I do like the fact that it's still 3 at the max level, because it gives him an incentive for leveling cogs. If we left it at 2, I think we'd just see Clockwork fall out of the meta. Crystal Maiden's base int reduced by 3. We saw this change last patch, I think, slightly, but it wasn't enough to really change it, I don't think. And actually, Darkseer getting a buff. The Ion Shell cooldown reduced from 10 to 9. And just a little more theory crafting. I know you could get 2 Ion Shells up, because I think it's a 20-second duration. Yeah, 20-second duration. So you're still only going to be able to get 2 up. But, it's going to be a little useful. Just a slight buff. He's still seen in teamfight strats, so it's pretty good. Dazzle, though, being buffed. So Ice Frog's basically saying that negative armor is fine? Huh. Okay, Death Prophet Exorcism cooldown increased by 15 seconds. That's almost 2 minutes. And this could be enough of a nerf to hurt her, but it could still be the same if teams don't think about it. In low-level pubs, this is going to do nothing. Right now it's at 100 seconds, and it is a 30-second duration. So it's down for 70 seconds. Now it'll be down for 85 seconds. So almost a minute and a half where you don't have to worry about exorcism. The silence AoE increase, though, is a nice rebalance. Her silence is already pretty hard to land, so adding that AoE increase is nice. Dragon Tail cool blah 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 blah. Dragon Tail cooldown rescaled from 9 to 12, 11, 10, 9. That's good. He had a 9-second spammable stun with only 1 skill point, which was pretty ridiculous. Okay, we reworked silence. The old silence silenced all the enemy units. New releases a wave that silences and does a minor non-interrupting knockback. Huh. So same cooldown and mana cost. And same duration. 900 distance, though? Wait a second. That's as far away as you could cast the silence. Well, you could silence a whole team with this very easily, though. And also push them away a little bit if they're really close to you, which is good for Drow. Since if they're close to her, she loses her agility, so pushing them back a bit. 350 at closest, and if I'm right, 350 might be the range that she gets her agility in. Which basically means she would always push people out of her agility range. 400, so if she pushes them back and then takes a step back really quick, she'll be okay. But it's not going to stun, which is good. Stone Remnant recharge timer increased. This is a big nerf for Earth Spirit. This is where the nerfs are going to come, because I know pros were complaining at high levels, because he's really good at high level. Geomagnetic Grip now does a 2, 3, 4, 5 silence instead of a stun. The damage is now reskilled. So okay, so they've swapped the silence and the stun on Geomatic Grip and Boulder Smash. And also the damage has been swapped. So now Boulder Smash is going to do 125 damage. Geomagnetic Grip, which is more of a skill shot, in a way, seeing as he can't just walk up and whack an enemy and get the free damage, is now going to do 200 up to 250, but silences instead of stuns, which is going to make him even harder to play, which is good. And they're lowering the duration of the silence by 1.5 seconds at the base. Actually, it's just been rescaled. Yeah, because it used to be 3.5 seconds on level 1, and now it's 2 seconds level 1, so you'll have to level it. Boulder Smash now does a 0.75, 1.25 stun. Yeah, he just took the stun duration down by 0.25 each level. Rolling Boulder now also gets interrupted if disabled during the initial 0.6 rolling charge instead of only while moving. Okay, so if you've already started moving with Rolling Boulder, you're not going to get disabled by disables. Geomagnetic Grip now kills trees along the path of a dragged allied hero. So you can't drag a hero through trees and then the enemy can't get them. Fix being able to cast Geomagnetic Grip on magic immune allies. Fixed Boulder Smash being able to target magic immune units. Fixed Rolling Boulder travel distance going further than intended if you use a stone remnant near the end of the roll. So they basically nerfed him a lot but balanced him a bit. It'll be interesting to see how he works. Earthshaker, though, with a big buff. Base move speed increased by 10. That's a lot. And strength gain increased from 2.5 to 2.9. That's almost 3 strength per level. Which... let's see here. Earthshaker. There we go. Right now, he'd end up at 2088 hit points. And let me pull up a calculator for this. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so this is going to change his strength where it was 2.5 times 25. Just from leveling he did get 62.5, but now he's going to get 2.9 times 25, which is 72.5. That's a big increase. That's almost an Ogre Club's increase at 25. And hit points by 19, so... no, wait. So previously he'd get 47.5 hit points per level. Now it's going to be 2.9 times 19. 55 hit points per level, so that's 10 hit points every level. That's pretty reasonable. And also it's going to be almost 3 damage per level, so that's a big deal. Whoops, I need to keep that tab open just in case. Enchantress base armor reduced by 1. Apparently she was literally taking no damage, so she had to take some. I don't think that's going to change too much. We're not going to get to Void yet. We're going to do Enigma first. AoE increased and cast range increased slightly, so I will say that's a big change. Because I've cast a couple black holes where it was like, oh, they're just outside the range. Now that's going to be less common. So that'll be interesting, I think. Faceless Void, Chronosphere cooldown reduced from 120, 110, 100 to 120, 180. So just a rescale of that. It's still the same at level 1, but it's going to be a lot lower at level 3. I think there was an Ags upgrade for Void like this. Void. Yeah, it's 60 seconds cooldown and longer duration. Okay. That's, reasonable, I guess. But this is ridiculous. You now have 1,000 move speed and phase while you're in Chronosphere. So basically, you're not going to have to see Void use his Time Walk to get out of the Chronosphere. He can just literally run out of it and then Time Walk further away because the mana cost has been reduced, which is going to be a huge early game buff for him since he has really low int. Okay. Huskar's getting buffs, which I really like. Burning Spear duration increased from 7 to 8. That's a nice change. since he got his agility nerfed so hard last time. We've actually seen him in a couple pro scene games. When I cast this past week, he came up, and he actually won it, I think. Inner vitality bonus heal below 40%, increase from 15 to 30%. Whoa. So this heal is now huge at level 1, especially if you're on low health. And then increased by 15% pretty much everywhere. That's crazy. And the cast range has been increased, so we'll see him maybe come up as a aggressive support. Or possibly a supporting mid. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Okay, Invoker, who's been a top tier pick. Here. Okay. Forge Spirit's armor reduced. Have no armor level 1. I forget which determines their armor. Because I'm thinking they're just going to buff Quas Wex Invoker and nerf Quas Exhort a little bit. So that we see more versatility in his playstyle. Because everyone's doing the same thing right now. Where's Forge Spirits? Here we go. Forge Spirits armor based on Exhort. So you're going to have to level Exhort to get armor, which people were doing anyway. But they just needed their armor nerfed anyway because they were too much damage for not enough vulnerability. Their attack range is reduced from 300 to 900 to 300 to 690. And the attack range actually is based on Quas. And I'm assuming these are going to scale evenly over the interval for each level. EMP burn increased from 100 to 400 to 100 to 550. That's pretty big. So, like, where it restores Invoker for 50% of the mana it drains from heroes, it's now going to restore for, instead of 200, I'm going to pull out the calculator because I don't want to do math right now. 275. So that's 75 extra mana when Wex is maxed, which is a good bit of mana. EMP delay from 3.7 to 2 to 2.6. So it looks like it might be 2.6 everywhere. We're going to see a lot more Quas Wex Invoker with that. Invoker? Invoker. You know what I mean. The Alacrity mana cost reduced from 75 to 45. That's the WWE, so that's going to be pretty nice for Wex Invokers. Ghostwalk move speed from negative 30. Oh, okay. So instead of having a slow on Ghostwalk until you hit max Wex, because I believe it is Wex that gives you the slow on Ghostwalk. Yeah. Instead, the first 3 levels are going to be a 30, 20, 10 slow. Then you're going to have no slow at the 4th level. And then the last 3 are going to give you a movement speed buff, which means you could now possibly use Ghostwalk for initiation. Huh. Okay. Jakiro, who people were saying was dead right now. Ice Path damage rescaled from 25, 50, 75, 100 to 50. That's actually a nerf on Ice Path. Liquid Fire DPS increased from... Okay, so a 5 damage buff on Liquid Fire at all levels. Dual Breath burn and slow duration increased from 4 to 5 seconds. So that's pretty big. DPS increased as... Whoa. What? Okay, so this is... At level 1, it was 5 times 4. It was 20. 20 damage from the Dual Breath burn. At level 4, it was 80. Because 20 times 4 is 80. Math with Revo, yay! Now, at just level 1, It's 16 times 5. Okay, so already at level 1, it's as good as it was at level 4. And it's every 1 second to every 0.5 seconds, so you're not going to be able to heal through it. There's no, like, pop a salve, you'll be fine, guys. No. And I'm scared to put this number in, but 5 times 76 damage for the top level is 380 damage? Okay, here's the thing, though. Removed initial impact from dual breath. Okay, so it's only 20 more damage at the top level and 10 less damage actually at the bottom level. And a little less on the third level actually. Or a little more on the third level. So it's not that much of a buff, but the damage over time is pretty ridiculous. Because you're no longer going to get hit by one single nuke. Because I'm not sure what it was before. I like Jakiro though for the metagame. He's a really fun hero to see. Makes for great team fights. Here it is. Yeah, he had a little bit of damage on the initial, so. The attack speed slow increase as well is nice. I like that. Okay, Juggernaut Blade Fury cooldown reduced. Not by much, really. 3 seconds at max level. Same at the initial level, which is really where Juggernaut shines. So, yeah. Mana Leak stun duration increased from 1.3, 1.6, 1.9, 2.2 to 1.5, 2.5, 2, 2.5, 3. That's a nice buff for Coddle. Don't think we'll see him just because of Crystal Maiden gives more mana to the whole team and doesn't have to choose. So, that's really nice. Moment of Courage now only procs 1 extra lifesteal attack. It would previously sometimes cause multiple extra lifesteal attacks per proc. So that's just a bug fix. The buff grace period increased from 0.5 to 1 seconds. I'm not sure what that means, honestly. Cooldown reduced from 1.2 to 0.9. So it looks like you're going to have a longer buff and a shorter cooldown for the orb effect. Or not orb effect, but the passive that can proc. That's interesting. Okay, so Leshrac actually getting the nerf stick a little bit. Lightning Storm getting nerfed a lot, actually. Whoa. Hold on now. This is a buff. It's a buff. I'd say. Was a 5.5 second cooldown. Now it's a 4 second cooldown with 1 less jump at the other levels. And a slight damage decrease, but a huge mana cost decrease, which is Leshrac's real problem. That's going to be pretty nice. Expect to see people start leveling that. What in the what lion? Or is this insane? Okay, but I'm skipping here. Is Lena. Dragon Self initial final AoE increased from. So basically the final AoE is increased. That's okay. Fiery Soul duration increased from 7 to 9. And movement speed increased. This could be big. I'm going to have to pull up Lena to figure out. If you can stack this 4 times now, that's huge. No, you can only stack it 3 times anyway. Okay. So basically, you'd be able to proc it with the same spell 3 times if you timed it perfectly. So it's not that big, but it's something. Okay, this is getting crazy. Lion's Aghanim Scepter now causes Finger of Death to hit units within a 200 AoE of the primary target. And to put that in perspective, I think it's like 1200 damage, I want to say. With the Agrams? Okay, it's 1025, but still. Darkseer into Lion. Let's just throw that one out there. You could vacuum into Finger of Death with Hags. And hit units within 200 AoE. I can't wait to try that somewhere. That and a Magnus. Vacuum into RP into Ag's Finger. We could see Lion go mid now, I think. Possibly to contest some of the more mana dependent mids. Like an Invoker he'd do okay up against, seeing as he can hex him anyway. And he can drain mana from him very quickly. Or even like a Dragon Knight. Could be a nice change to just be an annoyance in lane. And then he'd have room to farm his Ags. So that'll be interesting. Spirit Bear's Entangle is no longer an orb effect. Which means you could proc Entangle and Maelstrom at the same time, which isn't that big, but Lifesteal is now a possibility. Deso is now a possibility. Scotty is a possibility. But Scotty you wouldn't get because he doesn't benefit from stats at all, so that's pointless anyway. But you could build the Satanic Bear. That would be ridiculous. I don't think you could use the Satanic, but still, 25% lifesteal is a lot. Wolf's Fade time is now decreased from 3 to 1.7. Level 3 Lycan Wolves now have invisibility, and level 4 Wolves now have a passive ability that gives them HP regen for 15 a second. What's their max HP then? Because I know they have almost no regen. Anyways. There he is. Hit points. 320. So we go to our handy calculator here. Do 320 divided by 15. It's going to take them 21 seconds to regen their full health. And this doesn't tell me anything about regen, so... Plus, compared with the Vlads, that's ridiculous. They're going to really be able to Roche now at level 4. It's not going to be a contest. You won't even have to micro those, I don't think. Mag's getting more base intelligence. That's good. We've seen Alliance running, but that's pretty much it. Medusa's getting more mana shield damage absorption. By 0.25 a level, but that's still a lot. Because now it's going to be a 1-to-1 absorption per level, I believe. I need to look this up because I forget how this skill works, even though I played Medusa yesterday. %50 of the incoming damage, so that's a big buff, I'd say. Whoa. What? Okay, this is ridiculous. Meepo divided we stand level requirement reduced from 4, 11, 18 to 3, 10, 17. Level 3, you get a second Meepo. Let's just repeat that for emphasis. Level 3, you get a second Meepo. That is going to take a lot more experience from your team, but it basically means you can fight earlier. And it now passively reduces your revive timer by 10%, 20%, 30%. which means at level 17, Meepo's not dying as long at all. It's ridiculous. You can now cast an attack while in wave form. Which I'm assuming means you can use items as well. Could you already do that? I can't remember. I don't know what just happened there. Sorry about that. Other abilities or items while in wave form. So you already could shotgun Morphling in wave form, but now you can attack as well. Turn auto attack on when playing Morphling, kids. It's now good. Wrath of Nature mana cost increased. That's good. They needed to nerf Nature's Prophet Soul. That was the big problem with him right now. Seeing as I know Ice Frog's not going to nerf his split pushing ability like the TP. I still would have liked to see a slight damage decrease. But, that's okay. It's a minor nerf, but it's going to be something. Death Pulse now hits units in Fog of War for Necrophos. I don't really know if this is an issue, but it's going to help him chasing uphill. And it could help him against Brood. Not that he really needed a buff against Brood, but... So that's a thing. Still wouldn't expect to see him that much. His real problem is that he's too squishy early game. If he got a little bit of a strength buff in the early game, like just if they lowered his strength gain a little, like by 0.2, but then increased his base strength by a lot, it would change a lot for him, I think. Crippling Fear's Night Miss chance increased from 40 to 50. That's a good buff for Night Stalker. He didn't really need one, but he wasn't really being seened. Seened? That's not a word. Come on, professional caster here. Cast range on Impale now matches the travel range. This has no impact on the length over the area the Impale covers. And just so you guys know, I hadn't read over any of these changes before this. That's why I'm having to stop and think about some of these. Sorry about that. I have no clue what that means, really. I think it means that if someone's standing still in front of you and you say, I'm going to cast Impale on them, it's not going to stop short of them or something. It's only going to cast it when it can travel that far. It looks like a bug fix, mainly. This is fun, though. Ogre Magi Unrefined Fire Blast mana cost increase or change from 400 to 60% of your current mana. You can always cast this spell if you have only 100 mana remaining. The spell costs 60 mana. Okay, so all of these pubs who have been rushing Ags on Ogre Magi, like, it's good, I promise, and not rushing Veil before Ags at least, if not a mana regen item in between, now don't have to worry about the mana regen. It looks this way that you never are out of stun with Ogre Magi. You may not be able to cast Bloodlust if you keep casting your Unrefined Fire Blast, but you have 10 mana, you only spend 6 mana to cast Unrefined Fire Blast. Which can do... Just to put this in perspective, 6 mana for a skill... Where is he? Where is he? Seriously. Ogre Magi, there we go. 275. Wait a second, that can't be right, is it? No, okay, that was if you did it twice, but it can do 1100 damage for 6 freaking mana on a 6-second cooldown if you get really lucky. So that's That's a huge buff to Ogre Magi, at least in pubs. I still don't know that we'll see him in competitive, sadly, because I guess he's too overpowered and they always just respect not pick Ogre Magi, but I think he's really good. Omni Knight Degen Aura stickiness improved from 1 to 2. The 1 second stickiness was enough because I know you could build like Orb of Venom on Omni and it's ridiculous. I think we might actually start seeing carry Omni soon then. Yeah, this is a 28% slow and attack speed reduction that affects siege creeps. That can be used by illusions. I don't know why you really do worry about that on an Omni, but that's pretty big. And it now sticks around for 2 seconds after they leave the AoE. That's huge. I am excited. But, we're not going to look at that yet. Outworld Devourer, Astral Imprisonment cast range reduced. That's really nice, especially as a mid player. 550 to 500 means that he's not going to be able to assert his intelligence as easily in the mid lane, especially against mobile heroes like Queen of Pain. Invisible heroes now trigger Blur. Blur delay reduced from 1.5 to 0.75. So PA is going to be able to tell when someone's invisible around her, basically. So that's good. Queen of Pain gets a huge Scepter buff. Sonic Wave Scepter cooldown rescaled from 170-40 to 40 at all levels. And it already gives a huge damage buff to the ultimate. Actually, and I thought this was more at level 1. Level 1 Scepter gives you no damage bonus, but still reduces the cooldown by 95 seconds on the ultimate. And then at level 3, it reduces the cooldown by 95 seconds as well, and also gives you 125 extra damage. I think we're finally going to see some Queen of Pain's Rush Scepter in the pro scene. I would love to see that, because that's how I play her, because I like to team fight more, and this means I'm going to be able to team fight every time there's anything going on. I cannot wait to play her after the patch. Base HP regen for Riki increased. That'll help his laning stage. That's good. Sandstorm Radius rescaled from very low at early levels to 525 all the time, which is good for him. Another stack of Shadow Poison for Shadow Demon. Not bad. I haven't really seen people leveling this generally, and usually if the enemy gets 2 or 3 stacks on it, they'll back off anyway, but could be a pub buff, which is nice. Shadow Shaman Shackle duration increased by 0.25 seconds at all levels. That's a nice buff. Mass Serpent Words can no longer trap Roshan. Thank goodness, because that was necessary. Alliance was abusing it, lots of top teams were abusing it, and it was just cheap, honestly. Global Silence cooldown reduced from 140 to 130. That's okay. Still not that big of a buff for Silencer. Don't expect to see him in the pro scene that much. Skywrath Mystic Flare damage increased from 600, 900, 1200 to 600, 1000 at level 11, 1400. 1000 damage level 11 if you can get a 2-second stun off. And at max level, that's 700 damage every second. Split among heroes in an AoE, but it's still a huge buff. Really excited to see that, although Pugna being in the metagame is some... And oddly enough, Pugna wasn't changed. Neither was Pudge. Huh. That's a little weird. Slaughter Bass damage increased. At higher levels. Okay, so you now have to level bash. You have an incentive for leveling it more. It's 20 damage instead of 10 damage a level. That's pretty nice. It's a nice buff for Slardar, now that it's physical instead of magical too. Pounce damage reduced from 70, 140, 210, 280. So it goes down from 70 a level to 60 a level, which is nice. Slark needed a slight nerf. The Shadow Dance cooldown rescale is decent. I kind of like it, actually. Take aim range bonus increased from 80 a level to 100 a level, which means 400 range bonus, which puts Sniper this could be big for a push-oriented strategy, actually. Its base attack range is 550. Levels 2, 3, and 4 of this ability allow him to outrange towers. Well, now it's going to be 650. I'm wondering, though. Attack range of 700, so it's still going to be levels 2, 3, and 4 for outranging towers. But you gotta realize that's 950 attack range at max level. That's ridiculous. It's not a big enough buff to see him in the pro scene because he still has problems when you get in his face, but this is going to allow him to stand a little farther back from a fight. Storm Spirit's base movement speed reduced by 5. I skipped Spirit Breaker. You now gain vision over target while casting Nether Strike. This is a nice buff for him. Because before, when Nether Strike couldn't get cancelled, you didn't need vision to land it. And now that it no longer gives magic immunity and it can be cancelled, you could walk out of his vision range or blink out of it, I guess, because it didn't get disjointed either. It doesn't still. And you could evade it, but now you can't. So that's nice. Sven base armor increased by 3. Warcry cooldown rescaled. Reduced by 4 seconds at all levels. Yeah. Still not enough, I don't think. He doesn't have enough int for his early game to be that viable. We could see him sometimes, but with Necrobooks being so popular, I definitely think we won't. Terrorblade, I know nothing about him. Looks like there's a increase in the cast range of Reflection and a buff on Sunder, but no longer partially blocked by magic immunity. Oh, so it goes through magic immunity, so that's a buff too. Don't know about that, honestly. Ooh, big buff for Tidehunter, though. Another buff to Kraken Shell, which I believe he got last patch. I just want to check on that. Tidehunter. Yeah, he already got a 2 damage, then 4 damage, then... So it increases by... Instead of 7 per level, it's 9 per level. And now it's 10 per level. 40 damage block. Let me see. Vanguard gives 40 damage block to melee, so it's a free Vanguard at level 4. Which is... It procs 100% of the time, right? Does not strike with items that provide damage block. Yeah, but Stout Shield's still really good on him. I'm pretty sure it does stack, actually. I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on that for sure. Okay, Timbersaw's base strength reduced from 25 to 22. A good nerf for him, but he's still got a good strength gain, so it will still see him. Tinker added Aghanim Scepter, doubles laser cast range and heat-seeking missile count. What the heck? That means you get 4 heat-seeking missiles. 4. That do almost 200 damage. And hone in on heroes. Actual heroes, not illusions. I gotta look this one up. And what is the cast range on laser anyway? Range 550, which means he's gonna have 1,100 cast range on laser. That's 200 short of XP range. He's gonna be a powerhouse mid with the laser, with Scepter. It is Scepter, so he's not gonna be able to use it mid to lane dominate. Sorry about that. 325 damage, which is still about, I want to say, 225 pure. 275-ish pure, so. To 4 people. That's big. Overgrowth AoE increased from 625 to 675. That's just a little bit. Nature's Guy's cast range increased. That's good for him, but still don't think we're going to see him enough. He needs another buff to Living Armor to make him come back into the meta, but if he gets a buff to Living Armor, it's going to buff him too much. I think he needs to get a buff to his tower regen with Living Armor, but that's just personal opinion to me. Fervor max stacks rescale from 2, 3, 4, 5 to 4, so it's going to buff his early game and nerf his late game. Attack speed per stack rescaled from 20... Oh, it's going to buff his late game too. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty big. Because now with 4 stacks at 34... he gets 130 ticks attack speed with Fervor at max level, where previously he got 100, because 20 times 5, so, yeah. Okay, secondary units hit by Snowball now take the same impact as the primary unit. So, if I'm correct, previously they got a lesser impact and stun duration. Yeah. Which is good, because it's just consistency stuff. Remove 50% threshold mechanic from Walrus Punch. Rest in peace. So you can't get 4 times crits anymore. You can get 3 times. 3.5 times. Okay. So basically it does less damage than it would when they're on low health. But it's going to do even damage overall. So it's a buff Tusk, but a nerf to Killsteel Tusk. I think this definitely buffs the Tusk Axe combo, where you can punch and dunk, so that'll be interesting. Soul Rip cooldown reduced from 25-20, 15-10 to 24-18, 12-6. That's pretty good, actually, because now he can heal even more and damage even more with a nuke in the later stages of the game. That's like 4 seconds less at the later stages, which is big. Wave of Terror, armor reduction increased. So Ice Frog is basically telling us that armor reduction is the way to go right now. That's a whole nother point of armor reduction. That's pretty big. Base HP regen reduced for Venom, Mancer. Base damage reduced by 5, because he's got the wards anyway. Who needs base damage? That's just a balance nerf. We're still going to see Venom. He's very strong right now. In the metagame, too. Familiars are now properly magic immune. So they're going to have 100% mana magic immunity. Base moves to reduce and mana cost rescaled for Grave Chill. No touch to Soul Assumption. I really like the Visage changes. More duration for Warlock's Upheaval, but it's still going to be channeled, so not sure we'll really see people hit that duration. Focus Fire mana cost reduced from 200, 300, 400 to 150. That is big. Previously for Windrunner, you wouldn't level Focus Fire early. I still think it's a really good skill. And that's because of the mana cost. You wouldn't have the mana pool to support it. Now that it's 150, you can actually use it. It no longer has a cast animation. I'd still say her other skills are better, but we're going to see people level Focus Fire earlier. And carry Windrunner could happen still. Maledict AoE increased for Witch Doctor. That's good. Initial mana cost for Voodoo Restoration reduced. That's good because then you can kind of toggle it on and off if you really need it. Paralyzing Cast now bounce to units in Fog of War. That's pretty big, actually, because now Witch Doctor doesn't have to have sight for the bounces. A buff to Wraith King or Skeleton King as we know him. Gonna get more reincarnation slow. And more duration. That's pretty big, I'd say. It's enough that it's gonna matter that people aren't gonna be able to get away, but still if you turn and fight him, it's not gonna be a big deal. I believe it just slows movement speed, but it might slow attack speed. If it slows attack speed, that's a huge buff. Oh, it is attack speed. Oh, people have started editing this. It looks like. Zeus Arc Lightning cast range increased from 700 to 850. That makes a big buff for him, in the laning stage at least. So that's nice. Ground Courier bounty per player reduced. Okay, so in the first few minutes of the game, if you kill the Walking Courier, you're not going to get quite as much bounty per player. That's nice since you can't upgrade it instantly now. Flying Courier bounty is still the same. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Arcane Boots increased by 10 mana cost, so that's 10 less mana that you get to yourself, but more mana for other people. That's reasonable. Cleave AoE increased from 225 to 250 for Battle Fury. That's big. Blink Dagger no longer has a mana cost. This is a really big buff to heroes that use Blink. Especially like Pub Tiny with a Blink, Axe with a Blink, because they have mana problems. Earthshaker definitely, Sand King, but still even a buff to Puck, since he no longer has to have a mana pool to also sustain the Blink. That's big. Bottle can now be used on your allies by holding down the control key. You can't transfer runes with it. This is nice, though, because when someone asks you for a bottle charge, you can quickly do it instead of having to stand there and, okay, take my bottle. Give me back the bottle, blah, 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 blah. So, that's nice. A buff to Diffusal Blade, so agility bonus increased by 3 on the first level and 4 on the second level. That's pretty nice, actually. It's a subtle buff to Phantom Lancer as well. I like it. A 5th charge on Drum, which is good. Recipe cost increased from 800 to 875. A reasonable nerf. You're not going to see drums come up as early, but that's good at least. Cyclone cooldown on Yules reduced by 2 seconds. That's not a big change, but it is a change. Force Staff travel speed is reduced. It now takes 0.4 seconds instead of 0.3 to move the full distance. That's not that big of a change. Iron Branch gold cost reduced by 3. Oh my goodness, we're gonna see crazy stuff happen. Now you can buy, 12 Iron Branches? If you were buying 12 Iron Branches, I don't know why you'd need to, but you can buy 12 Iron Branches from the shop for your starting items. The mid, standard start with 3 Iron Branches is now only going to put them at 453 gold, which means they have to get 4 last hits for their bottle if there are pooled tangos, so that's big. Mask of Madness lifesteal increased. I feel like this is a buff the item needs to be taken seriously, but I still don't think we're going to see it because of the damage taken increased. Change the area type that's used when static charge hits units. No longer uses a cone, but uses an AoE the same distance. That's nice. I didn't even realize it used a cone. Another nerf to Necrobuck. Bounty increased by 25 and then 50 for the top 2 levels. Armor reduced by a lot. And cooldown increased. I still think Necrobuck's really good. Unless they literally are farming your Necrobook units. Maybe an early one isn't quite as good now. But, that's nice. Observer Ward can be targeted on allies to transfer 1 charge. Thank goodness. Because we needed that. It's just a quality of life kind of change. Now you could pull 1 observer to your mid to go ward early, if you needed to. Radiance attack damage bonus increased by 5. Not that big of a deal, I don't think. Refresher Orb recipe cost reduced. This is a buff to team fights, definitely. And a big buff to supports that like to get refreshers. So, Tidehunter, Enigma. That's pretty big, especially with the buff to Enigma's ult and the buff to Tide already. I think Iceberg wants to see a lot more big team fight kind of stuff go on. Agility bonus increase for Ring of Aquila. That's a huge buff to popular carries. Weaver, Mirana, who weren't touched. Huh. That's really strange. And Lifestealer wasn't touched as well, so. A Rod of Atos buff giving you a little more HP. That's good. Sanjanyasha's slow duration increased. Do want to see what Sanj had before, because I think they just transferred the slow. Okay, duration was 4 seconds, slow is 20. It was still 4 seconds, but now it's 5 on Sanjanyasha. And increased by 2%. That's okay, it's not huge though. Sentry Ward can be targeted on allies to transfer 1 charge like the Observer, that's good. Shadow Amulet can now be used on allies, but goes into cooldown for 10 seconds when used on allies. But you could, oh yeah, that's a big buff to Warlock as well with the refresher. You could make 1 person invisible, 10 seconds later make another person invisible, and if you wanted to, you could make your whole team invisible. However, you're obviously losing farm during that time, so it's a reasonable buff, I guess. Arctic Blast range increased. That's nice. And speed increased as well. That's really nice. Smoke of Deceit duration decreased from 40 to 35. That's a slight nerf to like gank strats, but I still think it's a very, very viable item. Stacking delay decreased, so you're going to be able to respond better. Max targeting range increased from 425 to 475. It's going to help you defend pushes a lot easier. You're going to be able to TP in 50 units further away. Tranquil Boot's movement speed increased from 85 to 90, and HP regen from 10 to 12. The new support boot has arrived, everyone. And finally, we have Veil of Discord. Strength, agility, damage bonus increased from 3 to 6. So overall, some really nice changes. Big buffs to teamfight things, and certain smaller items in the early game. Really surprised we didn't see Bristleback get more of a nerf. And I'm surprised we didn't see Mirana or Weaver touched at all. Who else is there that's really OP? I'm just going to look at Heroes a second just to see if anything else really went untouched. Wisp went untouched, which is a little odd. Elder Titans apparently considered balanced right now, which is fine. Naga Siren. Surprised we didn't get to see her get a slight buff, but if he's favoring teamfight strats, that's kind of an anti-teamfight hero, so yeah. Gyrocopter not touched though. Luna not changed either, although she's less popular since she's so squishy. Disruptor not changed. Crystal Maiden only barely changed. Puck, thank goodness, not changed. But yeah, overall a pretty interesting patch. So thank you guys for watching. I'm SP Revolution 5. I'm a caster of Dota. I do mostly Brazilian stuff, but obviously in English. And you can find me at Twitter, SP Revolution 5, on Twitch at SP Revolution 5, and also on Facebook at SP Revolution 5 Dota. If you guys could go like those, that would help me out a lot. So thanks. And I think that's it. So see you guys next time. Enjoy the patch.